Okay, so first question is, how do you feel about Trump lowering the refugee cap?
Well, historically it's been 95,000, an average of 95,000, and has historically been a bipartisan program. Recently, that is not the case. The program has been cut to historic lows every year that the Trump presidency has been in place. So it's frustrating. Even before the ban, less than 1% of refugees who were approved to be resettled around the world by the United Nations High Commission for Refugees actually were able to be resettled in a third country. That counts everybody. So now and we were historically resettled more than the next 5 nations combined. Now we have a pretty large square miles, and we have had an amazing legacy of humanitarian and refugee resettlement in general, and helping people find a new home and a new place to be. And it's very sad that that's being cut. The story of how Church World Service got started, I think, is pretty incredible. After World War II, a volunteer so first of all, Church World Service decided, as a group of Christian denominations, they call them communions. A bunch of denominations got together and decided that we can do more together than everybody doing their own thing. So back then, it was a little bit before my time. There was a guy who would go to the boats that came into New York Harbor after World War II, and he would look for families that didn't have family members meeting them, look for people who didn't have family members meeting them. And he would approach them and ask them if they needed help resettling. And if they said yes, he would take them back to the church or to the office and literally call a whole host of network of churches across the country, and until they found a church that could take the family. And then he would put them on a train, and off they would go to Illinois and Indiana and Michigan and Virginia, and they would find a new home, and the church would help them get resettled. So I'm very sad that this is being cut. This incredible legacy that our country has had. We've done some not great things in this country, but this is one of the things that is pretty great that we've done. And it's sad that it's being used, that it's not bipartisan anymore.
Thank you. So you already answered how the program was thought of and how it happened. And then how does the program work now?
So now what happens is I'm relatively new.
You're good.
So I might get some acronyms messed up. So what happens now is the United Nations High Commission for Refugees interviews somebody, and then once they're interviewed and they have a credible fear of persecution, that's determined. They then it's determined whether or not they would be a good fit for refugee resettlement. I'm not sure what those requirements are. Then they're passed to the people who are fit for refugee resettlement or approved for refugee resettlement by the UNHCR, are passed then to one of 9 in the United States, to one of 9, to the Bureau of Population, Refugees, and Migration.
Okay.
And they, so then PRM conducts a series of, PRM and USCIS, or United States Citizenship and Immigration Services, conducts a series in Department of Homeland Security and Immigration and Customs Enforcement, which is part of the USCIS, and the State Department, and what am I missing? The FBI and the CIA all conduct background checks on the folks. So refugees are the most vetted people who come to this country by far. And then after all those checks are done, there's also health checks. And then once all of those are approved, and as you know, probably they have recently been, persons from Muslim countries have additional security checks put on them. And then the refugees come to the United States, and the case is picked up by a variety of, one of 9 agencies in the country who are allowed to resettle refugees. And some of the money comes directly from PRM to state agencies, and other money goes from this, I don't know where the originating is, but basically federal funds come to the states and are to each state and are divvied up to the agencies that provide resettlement in that state for ongoing services after 90 days. For the first 90 days, money goes directly to the agencies. And then the 9 agencies divvy it up amongst their network. So it kind of goes and then back together to our office. And we provide very scripted services in terms of before they come, you have to find an apartment. You have to furnish the apartment. You have to have food for a week. You have to have a hot meal when they arrive that is culturally appropriate to where they're from and their background. And within a day, you have to go back and make sure they're okay. Of course, we would do that anyway. Within the first 5 days, you have to schedule, and there's a variety of things that you have to do within the first 5 days, within the first month, within the first 90 days. But we certainly we help them apply for Social Security cards. We help them shop for food. We give them cash to help them sort of get by. We pay their rent for the first little while until they can get a job. And we orient them to the United States. We make sure they know how to use the bus system. All of the things that you would do if you need to move, we make sure that they have all the services they need. And then they find a job, and in this community it's about $12 an hour, between $12 and $16 an hour. There's a lot of places that you don't need English to work in, so those are what we can consider survival jobs. And then after, we're allowed to provide, after that first 90 days, we're allowed to help them with health services, employment services, and find housing. So between the day 90 and 5 years, we can help them with those. So what we really want to do with that state funding from day 90 to 5 years is try to help them move up the career path into more and more professional careers as they want. So it's definitely client-centered, strength-based.
Yeah.
Help them develop and achieve their goals.
So you said after you support them pretty much for the first 90 days, and then after that you kind of gradually do less, right?
Well, we have, there's a variety of other programs, but that basically covers it. There's intense case management for people that have more needs or that are high risk.
Okay.
So we can do more intense case management for longer periods of time. And then there's also a match grant program where we provide cash assistance so that they don't go on TANF or welfare.
Okay.
And that's for up to 6 months.
Okay.
And some programs you can't have people who are applying, you can't be in some of the programs you can't be dually enrolled, but some of them you can. So and then some So according to need, people get different services.
Okay.
So the idea is that they all become self-sufficient as quickly as possible.
Mhm.
So some people might get a little bit more help than others.
Gotcha.
But it's like that. I just heard about this picture that little kids are standing looking over a fence, and you all see their eyes, and then you look behind the fence, and they have different size boxes that they're standing on, so that everybody gets kind of an equal. And that's kind of what we're looking at. But
Okay.
adults.
Thank you. So how do you receive notice of a refugee's arrival before they come to the U.S.? Is it
So it's electronically these days, not a phone call. There's a whole system of a web-based system of case management that we have access to, that our state agency or our national agency, Church World Service in New York City, will assign us a case, and then we have, I think, 2 or 3 business days to what's called assure the case. Like, we look at the case, we decide, they've already done some vetting about whether or not it would be a good fit for our community, et cetera, and then we do additional vetting. We have interpreters, we have we can take a family of this size. If there's significant medical issues, we might look at who the specialists are in the community and decide if they have the capacity to serve that, if there's any particular medical.
Okay.
So after the first month, so you provide them with like a home, but after the first month, do refugees need to find another place to stay, or is that their permanent home if they choose to stay there?
Well, it depends on availability. We love a lot about JMU students, which I'm assuming you are.
Bridgewater.
Oh, we love a lot about JMU students because there's so many of them, and they bring a lot of money into the community, but they make housing very challenging.
Yes.
Yeah.
So when we can, we will move. Like, they'll have a house when they come that they are welcome to stay in for as long as they want to. They are free to move if they choose, but sometimes we can't. And actually, Bridgewater Church of the Brethren has a duplex that they are allowing that is strictly for refugees.
Oh, right.
And they've hosted several people on a not permanent basis. So we've had to do everything from, so Airbnb provides a like $30,000 stipend for anybody who, from the whole Church World Service network, to provide emergency housing for folks. We've had somebody have to stay in hotel rooms for a little while. So that's all.
Depends on the case.
Depends on the case.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure. All right. So, I see you have many for too long, but have you met any refugees that have impacted your life?
I would say so. We haven't had more. We've had 2 people. Well, we have had 1 person come since I started 2.5 months ago.
Okay.
Partially because of the things that President Trump is doing. But I've worked with immigrants and refugees for a really long time. And the thing that struck me the most was the, not an individual person, a group of people. So do you know about the Kurdish community? Do some research, it's very interesting. So the Kurds are an ethnic group that is, they want their own country, and the country that they consider, the portion of the world that they consider theirs is in Iraq, and Iran, and 2 other countries that I can't remember right now. But they were persecuted by Saddam Hussein because of their social group ethnicity, and they assisted the United States in their, so they were persecuted by Iraqis, Saddam Hussein and his forces. Yeah, like horrible things, gassed, shot, like whole towns, horrible things. So because they were assisting the United States, and after the first Gulf War, or with under George Bush 1.
Gotcha.
Edit that out. Under George Bush 1, the president, the Kurdish forces helped George Bush 1, and then we pulled out of Iraq, and leaving them high and dry, which has happened recently in Syria.
Mm-hmm.
So then Clinton came in and helped them be resettled quickly, for the people who helped the United States Armed Forces. So then you have a persecuted group of people in Harrisonburg area, fitting in very well, helping contribute to the community as all refugees do, etc. 6 years later, or a certain amount of time later, can't remember exactly when, we started getting Iraqis brought into the community. The people who speak the language, Arabic and Kurdish, primarily Arabic, are the persecuted Kurdish people. And what happens? There's tremendous risk of lots and lots of conflict, because you have the persecuted group. And what do? They actually help resettle folks, and they actually welcome people into the community and help interpret and help bring food to their home and take care of them. So that is like the story that has touched me.
That's amazing.
I don't want to tell any like individual stories.
No, you're
but
fine.
That's okay.
good.
So why do you think Americans are so hostile towards refugees? And what do you think can be done to change this attitude?
Honestly, I don't think that election will hopefully change it without Russian interference. But I think that certain groups in the United States have used immigrants, especially most recently refugees, as a scapegoat for fear and a powerless group of people who will have citizenship but don't have it yet. So the same thing, and they use that as, I mean, it's been done over and over and over in the world successfully. So my friend tells me a story about like poor people from the country after the Civil War, sometime after the Civil War, and African American freed slaves had similar experiences, and there was a very concerted effort to split the two groups because together they would have been really, really strong. So there was a very concerted effort to split those folks up. And so I think, every new immigrant group who's come to the United States has been vilified. People are afraid of them. People are, So the things that I think can change it is developing relationships. I think one of the reasons is because we're so isolated. As a nation, we're so big. We have Canada to the north, who is, white primarily. And then we have Mexico, who we want to build a wall against. And we don't have very many, by and large, we don't have a ton of diversity in our country. Once you get out west, where that used to be Mexico, it changes. But it's, I think education about what refugees have experienced, about our role in refugee with causing the issues that precipitate refugee experiences. Do brethren colleges abroad, go away for a little while and experience something different, into a different country, not like Germany or Switzerland.
Yes.
I think, but just opening our minds somehow, maybe we can do with the opposite what was done with cigarettes for 30 years. but do it on the good side. I don't know. Honestly, it's really complicated, and I don't think there's any really, really easy thing to like changing it. But I think we're becoming more and more polarized in this country. Both Republicans and Democrats are becoming increasingly polarized, and that will not help the situation.
For sure.
I'm not looking forward to the election.
All right. So, as a follow-up question, so on your website, there's an organization called Linking Communities. And do you think having this organization through the Church World Service has helped the refugees feel more welcomed and accepted?
I think it's a program, not an organization.
Okay.
It's a program that we have. So what we've tried to do with that is certainly connect people, and it's a friend thing. It's not a it's not a full sponsorship. So like they didn't take care of all the needs. It's just like invite them over for dinner once a month.
Like a networking kind of
A networking friendship kind of thing.
Cool.
So I haven't spoken to a ton of a ton of refugees since I got here. So I'm not sure. We haven't done a really long-term study of it.
Okay.
And it's kind of like sometimes when we try really hard to help people, we don't always help people. We sometimes do for people instead of help people learn to do it themselves. So I think it can be challenging. It's always challenging when you get, we want people to volunteer, we want people to be involved in linking communities, but it's also like we want it to, more important than connecting people is connecting them in a way that is empowering for both groups.
Gotcha.
So
That's
So,
great though.
yeah.
That's really cool.
We just have one more question. On your website also, it talks about the benefits of resettling in Harrisonburg, like job opportunities and inexpensive housing. So do you think if refugees resettled areas other than Harrisonburg, do you think they'd have the same opportunities and benefits, or do you think that they would have a harder time assimilating?
Well, it depends. So the city schools are amazing. They're definitely one of the things. Are you from around here?
No.
I'm not, no.
Okay. So the city schools have for 20 years provided homeschool liaisons that are bilingual or more. There has been it's just been an incredible job that the city schools have done to integrate. And then the poultry industry has made it hugely successful or hugely important and helpful for refugee resettlement. And then the community is pretty welcoming as well. And not just Harrisonburg City, but like the county folks are pretty welcoming as well. Bridgewater is in the county. There's a farmer, I don't know where, but that in Rockingham County that has welcomed I can't remember where from, has welcomed children who used to have goats at home to let them like raise and take care of goats, and then they show them at the 4-H fair, at the county fair.
That's cool.
So you see like refugee kids in like little Western shirts, like, they're goats with like white, and it's awesome. So I think we're a fantastic place to resettle refugees. But I think there's a lot of fantastic places to resettle refugees. I would love to once the refugee resettlement cap increases, I would love to send people up to Winchester, open an office in Winchester, have people resettle up there. I think that would be a great place. I hear great things about all places all over the country. So as a country, we have a lot of room for refugees, and there's a lot of places that they will find welcome and a home. So, while Harrisonburg is the best, and we're like Harrisonburg area is by far the best. No, there is lots of places. So I can't say that they wouldn't find welcome, because they've found welcome in the hundreds of thousands everywhere across the country.
Okay.
Wonderful. Thank you.